Science!
Welcome to Science this week, guys. I have some fun topics to talk about, and first is all of us can together help name a brand new planet. That's pretty cool. A team of planetary astronomers is asking the public to help name a minor planet designated 2007 OR10, that wonderful scientific name there. But we can vote on 3 different options to name this planet that resides in the Kuiper Belt, and that's pretty cool. I'm going to put up the link where you can go right here. That's all the different information about the astronomers and also the information about the planet, and you can cast your vote. And I'll run it down real quick, which is kind of fun. Obviously, most planets in the solar system are named after some sort of ancient old world deity or god. And keeping in that theme, we have 3 choices. One is GONGGONG, the Chinese water god with red hair and a serpent-like tail. He is known for creating chaos, causing flooding, and tilting the earth, actually, which is kind of cool. Then there's Hal, a European winter goddess of fertility, rebirth, and women. Hal makes snow by shaking out her bed, which is odd, again. She is a patroness of household crafts, especially spinning. She is linked to the Yuletide, the winter solstice season, associated with mistletoe and holly, evergreen plants bearing red berries. And finally, the third option to vote on is Vili. He's part of the Aether and is a Nordic deity. Vili, together with his brothers Odin and Ve, defeated the frost giant Ymir and used Ymir's body to create the universe. Ymir's flesh and bones were forged into earth, with Ymir's blood becoming the rivers and oceans. So you can go right to this website right here, and you have until May 10th to cast your vote. And I already voted. I'll maybe sway your opinion a little bit, but I totally voted for that Nordic god because that is just super rad. But there's all 3 of them are really interesting choices. And after May 10th, they're going to pick the name, the winning name, and that's going to be the name of this minor planet, which is pretty cool. All 3 of these choices, they reference gods and deities that are somehow associated with the color red and also relate to either ice or snow, which are 2 themes that are associated, which scientists know so far about this planet. The world is roughly 775 miles across, making it smaller than Pluto, and it orbits the Kuiper Belt, like I said, a region of the small icy objects that orbit just around Neptune. And it was discovered in 2007, so, again, that's why it has that scientific-y name, but we get the chance to rename it something pretty cool. Since 2007, scientists have confirmed it does have this reddish surface, suggesting it may sport long, dormant ice volcanoes, and discovered it also has a moon. So it's pretty neat. We get to weigh in on the debate of what this minor planet will be called. So cast your vote, and you have until May 10th to do so. I think that was pretty cool. On the other side of news, lots of stuff coming out of SpaceX. And we talk about SpaceX a lot on this show because they are always making news, it seems, lately. First and foremost, back on April 11th, there was a successful Falcon Heavy launch, and all 3 rockets actually touched back down, which is really exciting. And I want to take a second and shout out a friend of the show and former guest on the podcast, Chuck Fields of Your Online Coffee Break podcast. He was down there for the launch and actually got to set up his cameras right near the launch pad and captured this amazing image of the Falcon Heavy launch, which is just incredible. So congrats to Chuck on all of his awesome stuff he's been doing down at Kennedy Space Center in the last few launches, and definitely go follow his podcast. The flight on April 11th was the first Falcon Heavy featuring the souped-up Block 5 versions of the component rockets. Now, you have to remember, the Falcon Heavy rocket is built of 3 Falcon 9 first-stage rockets, which are combined to form the 27-engine mega rocket. The Falcon 9, obviously, is the normal SpaceX rocket that's going up, the same one that actually brought the Dragon capsule with Death Wish coffee to the International Space Station last year. Yeah, the Falcon Heavy is what was tested last year when Elon Musk sent his own Tesla Roadster and the Starman in the front seat there into space. And now they've tested it again in preparation to get ready for the Crew Dragon spacecraft that's going to be taking actual crew members from Earth to the space station and beyond. As the rocket's first stage engines roared to life, they fired in unison and spewed smoke and fire around the launch pad, and it was very impressive, as you can see from the pictures. The Falcon Heavy is a part of a growing list of SpaceX launch services and ongoing projects, which could include launching astronauts to space station even later this year during Crew Dragon's first crewed test flight. But Falcon Heavy won't be the most powerful rocket actually in SpaceX's arsenal. SpaceX is in the early stages of developing a launch system that's even larger than the Falcon Heavy. And the reasoning behind that is we want to create that orbiting space station around the moon, Gateway, and we also want to not only have a moon base, but be able to bring large equipment up to the moon. So we're going to need the largest rockets and payloads possible. And I have a really cool video of the launch directly from SpaceX right here.
Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Vehicles pushing downrange.
And we're beginning deep throttle. Center core at deep throttle.
T plus 33 seconds into flight. Under the power of 5.1 million pounds of thrust, Falcon Heavy is headed to space. We're throttling down at T plus 40 seconds to prepare for maximum dynamic pressure.
Power and telemetry are nominal.
We're hearing reports. Power and telemetry are nominal.
Vehicle supersonic.
You may have heard the call out on Net 1. Vehicle is supersonic. Side boosters are throttling back up on power as we're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. Trajectory looking good. You can hear the applause behind me as we've gotten past maximum dynamic pressure. Next event coming up is chill-in of the MVAC-D engine. Get the turbopump ready to ignite the main engine on the second stage in another couple of minutes. Merlin engine performance looks good. We've begun dropping power on the side boosters to decrease loads on the center core.
Stage 1, entry burn has started.
Side boosters are transonic.
And there you can see the reentry burn for center core has begun. Coming up in about 5 seconds here, the side boosters landing burn will begin as well.
Side booster landing burn has started.
boosters today on Falcon Heavy. What an amazing accomplishment.
Super cool and historical in its own right of this giant rocket system working almost flawlessly. As you could see, not only was the launch successful, but all 3 boosters came back down. 2 of them landed on land, and 1, the central core, touched down on a drone ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean off the Florida coast. But as news broke yesterday, the central booster on that ship did not complete its homeward journey intact. Rough seas claimed the first stage during the drone ship's voyage back to shore, and it's just unfortunate. Basically, that's going to happen, but SpaceX has already talked about new ways of recovery of these rockets in the hopes that they can combat even the worst conditions on the sea, because the plan is to reuse these rockets up to 10 times, which would cut down on rocket cost and reusable material, just like back in the days of the space shuttle, is very, very viable and very important in the furthering of our space exploration. So, again, it was a little bit of a misstep, and we lost that rocket, but, we learned from our mistakes, and they're only going to make that recovery system even better from something like that. This isn't the only news that SpaceX had this week, though, which is pretty crazy. SpaceX was also tasked with DART. NASA announced that SpaceX will fly its Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, in its planetary defense mission. Now, think the movie Armageddon. We've actually brought up DART right on this science segment before, and it really is that idea. We've never had in place a viable way to deflect an asteroid if a giant asteroid was heading towards Earth. It is science fiction. It is this kind of idea that we don't really want to wrap our brains around. But what happens if it actually is going to happen? We don't have any defense system. So NASA's been working on that, and they're now going to partner with SpaceX on it. If all goes according to plan, DART will launch aboard a Falcon 9 rocket from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California in June of 2021. In October of 2022, this spacecraft will slam into Didymoon, the 540-foot-wide satellite of the near-Earth asteroid Didymos. And we, again, in a past science segment, we actually talked about that, the possibility of testing out an asteroid reflector system on this spatial body called Didymoon. Telescopes here on Earth will document the collision and how it affects Didymoon and its orbit around the 2,540-foot-wide Didymos. Such observations will help researchers assess the kinetic impact or strategy of dangerous asteroid defection, as the DART team members have stated. And I actually have a video from the team there that kind of explains it a little bit more in depth of what we're looking at with this DART system.
DART is the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. The Earth is hit by asteroids and pieces of asteroids all the time. Every year or so, we get hit by things maybe the size of a table. The kind of object that DART is going to visit is an object that's about the size of the Washington Monument. Those kinds of objects hit us every few thousand years, and they would cause severe damage on a regional scale.
We chose to do this demonstration at a binary asteroid. It's called Didymos. This is actually approximately the shape of the main asteroid. It's called Didymos A, and its moon, Didymos B. What DART will do is DART will hit the secondary. When it hits the moon, it will change the orbit period. And when it changes the orbit period, it affects the timing of when the moon moves in front of or behind the primary.
Mostly what we're looking to do is change the speed of the incoming object by maybe a centimeter per second or so. So that's not very fast, but if you do it enough seconds in advance, you can cause it to miss the Earth entirely.
DART is a part of a larger collaboration called AIDA, which pulls in all the experts of the world who can help their governments predict and understand what it is that they can do and should do in the event that there was an incoming threat. The DART mission that APL is pulling together will be the first mission in that flight line.
DART is the first mission to fly the next Sea Ion engine. It is the first mission to demonstrate smart navigation, which means we're going to be guiding ourselves into the asteroid autonomously.
At about 4 hours out from impact, SmartNav is kicked in, and what it does is it uses the imagery from the optical payload, basically the camera that's on DART, and from the imagery we are able to discern Didymos A from Didymos B. We have a targeting algorithm that differentiates the two, and we are aiming for Didymos B.
The other part of this is the propulsion system that we're demonstrating. The Next Sea propulsion system is utilizing a new generation of gridded ion propulsion technology, and it's what we're using to allow us to get to the asteroid, but also allow us a flyby of an object prior to our actual encounter.
For these vehicles to be able to supply the power for the electric propulsion engine, we needed higher power output. ROSA allows us to be able to have a very compact and light mass for launch and then deploy these really large arrays once we're out there in space.
Our planetary launch window opens on June 15, 2021, and will impact the asteroid in 2022. We're very excited to be NASA's first planetary defense mission.
Pretty neat stuff. DART won't be the first spacecraft either to wallop an asteroid. Earlier, actually this month, Japan's Hayabusa 2 probe smashed a copper cannonball into the space rock Ryugu. It was to unearth its surface, to kind of like stir it up, all the material for study. And because Hayabusa 2 is going to collect some of this newly unearthed stuff. And because this satellite, we've got a couple of those out there now, is a sample return mission. The probe has already snagged one sample from Ryugu, and with these added samples, it's scheduled to come back down to Earth in December of 2020, so then we can run further analysis on those samples from space, which is pretty cool, that we're sending spacecraft up and taking samples and having them come back, because, I mean, before that, we've been at the mercy of whatever spacecraft it is. The early rovers on Mars take samples, deal with the data in however they can, however those rovers have it. The smallest ways possible, they deal with that data and then send the data back. But we're not putting actual human hands on that data and those samples. So being able to do that is monumental, and that's really, really cool. So we're going to be getting that from the Japanese Hayabusa 2 probe just next year. But it's very cool. In the next few years, we're actually going to be deploying this DART system and hopefully have some real data on what we can do in the event of a disaster of an asteroid coming for Earth, much like the science fiction movies, blockbuster movies of the 90s. But it's pretty exciting stuff, and congratulations to SpaceX for all of their success and their continued success, because them, along with NASA and the rest of the world, we are making leaps and bounds, pun intended, for getting to farther reaches of space and furthering space exploration to the moon and eventually Mars and beyond.